currently enjoying a wonderful vacation this week with my family. I do hope to publish this after I get home, so don't get any ideas, burglars. Hey guys, you wanted to be on the vlog? Say hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Say into the vlogosphere.
Into the vlogosphere.
All right, great. Thanks guys. Oh boy. Really don't like sharing screen time. They wanted to be on the vlog. As I explore this idea of embracing limitation, one of the topics I hope to dig into is the idea of rest. And so I figure what better place to talk about that than on vacation at the beach. One of the most apparent limitations that we have as humans is that we have to rest daily. We need to sleep. It's inevitable. We can fight it off for a time with caffeine or entertainment, work, or other means, but ultimately we're going to have to sleep at some point. It probably comes as no surprise, but according to the Cleveland Clinic, lack of sleep has serious ramifications both for our short-term health and our long-term health. In the short term, sleep deprivation can lead to impaired memory, a lack of alertness, increased likelihood of getting into a car accident, and also relationship stress because you're more moody. Ask Carly about that one. Woo-hoo. In the long term, a lack of sleep can lead to high blood pressure, diabetes, heart attack, or stroke. So our bodies have this built-in rhythm of limitation. We have to rest daily by sleeping. But what about resting weekly by taking a day off from work? A quick caveat, not everyone has the luxury of being able to take a day off from work in terms of the amount of money that they're making and needing to provide for their family. So I go into this topic recognizing that. I try to take a Sabbath once a week, one day out of each week. This concept of Sabbath comes from the creation narrative in Genesis chapter 1. God does the work of creating for 6 days, and on the seventh day, he sets it down and he rests. And then a bit later in the Bible, taking a Sabbath is included in the Ten Commandments. Since I grew up in the church, I heard the Ten Commandments from a very young age. I knew that the Sabbath was a commandment that God explicitly stated. And so over time, I've actually felt a lot of guilt and self-condemnation around this area of Sabbath. So I've either felt guilty for not setting aside a full day of rest from my normal work, or I feel guilty about not resting well enough, whatever that means. I guess what I mean by that is not being able to really relax and not mentally, spiritually, emotionally setting work down. And I think it's really unfortunate that I've felt this way about Sabbath for so long because I believe it's truly a gift. So I've spent some time wrestling with this question of how do I enter a space of spiritual, mental, emotional rest? And I've been learning that one of the keys to being able to rest well is recognizing my place in the created order. So I want to spend a little bit of time unpacking that. So to help us unpack this idea a little bit, I've brought in a guy who has a lot of experience and wisdom in this area of a biblical understanding of rest. My dad. Hey, Dad.
Hey.
All right, so you've been a pastor for 45 years?
30.
30, okay. So on this subject of rest and how a kind of robust understanding of the creator-creature distinction, of our place in the created order, how do you think that's integral to an understanding of how to rest well?
Great.
My understanding begins with even looking at creation itself, that even prior to Adam and Eve's sin and fall, God created them to know Him, to glorify Him, to enjoy Him. He created Adam and Eve to live according to God's counsel. And so we've seen the results of what happens when we seek for other means of rest and glory rather than resting in the glory of God and in His wisdom and counsel. And so it leads to a life of turbulence. It leads to a life of seeking counterfeit glories through work, drugs, sex, rock and roll, through many other means that give short-term pleasure or rest, but no soul satisfaction. So as a very young believer, one of the first verses I memorized was in Galatians 2:20 that begins with the words, I am crucified with Christ. Now as a teenager, talk about if the opposite of peace is turbulence. I went through some of the typical issues that teenagers go through. How will I be accepted? Are the clothes I'm wearing cool enough? Will the girls think I'm cool enough? Will people like me? Will they accept me? And then even a pretty weak negative concept of myself. I was reading that verse one day in my bedroom, and this thought came to me, is that I don't have to live according to my own thoughts. I don't have to live according to my own presumptions. I don't have to live out of the sense of my own fears. I can die to that, meaning I don't have to live under the dominion of me. I can live under the dominion of God and the new life that He gives in Christ. So realizing that I'm the creation of I'm His work, I'm His handiwork, I'm the sheep of His pasture. I did not make myself. It frees me from getting anxious about things over which I have no control. God's circle of concern is much huger than mine. All He requires me to do is to love Him and love my neighbor as I love myself, and everything that revolves from that. My circle of concern is so much smaller. But my anxiety happens when I forget that I'm a creature, that I'm not God. I try to take God's responsibilities from Him. I become fearful, angry, anxious, because I realize I'm trying to do His work for Him, and I can't. So the ultimate rest is through the victorious work, completed, sealed, finished work of Christ on the cross for me. And that is my ultimate place of rest.
Assaulted musings on the topic of rest. There seems to be a symbiotic relationship. Yes, symbiotic. I do know some words. I think there's a symbiotic relationship between embracing limitation both in work and in play and in rest and in relationship. I think they all build on each other and feed on each other. So one of the ways this has played out for me, when, especially like in my work life, day-to-day life, I'm not embracing limitation and I'm trying to do everything and be everything. By the time it comes to my one day off per week, just about all I can do is lay on the couch and nap, watch TV, and just kind of veg out. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I think there is a place for vegging out, but when that's the only way I can rest, I think there's a bit of an issue there. But when I'm embracing limitation more in my day-to-day life, then when it comes to the time for my day off, I actually have a bit more energy to rest well, in ways like, engaging in hobbies I enjoy, or spending time with people that I don't get to spend as much time with during the week. So that's very enjoyable. And this is something that I still really wrestle with, and have a long way to go in learning and growing. And it's hit or miss. It ebbs and flows in terms of my kind of practice of rest. It seems a bit paradoxical, but resting well actually takes a lot of work and practice. Like so many things in life, I think rest and Sabbath really is a journey, not a destination.